Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week, we talk about how to love ourselves, others, and a higher nature, how to improve our finances, career, health, relationships, and spirituality. And I have a very lovely guest today. This is Cara Mentzel, writer and teacher, magna cum laude graduate with a BA in psychology, and a master's in elementary education with an emphasis on child literacy. She is nationally board certified reading teacher and the sister of the famed Broadway singer Indina, who sang Let It Go from Frozen. She is the author of Voice Lessons, A Sister Story, which is a Goodreads Choice Award winner, and the co-author with her sister of some children's books, Loud Mouse, Proud Mouse, inspirational children's books. She also had a border collie and a Maltipoo, I think is on her lap right now, if I'm not mistaken. And she just moved to California.
They don't both fit on my lap.
Oh, okay. Oh, they both fit on your lap, or they don't?
No, they don't.
Oh,
So just
okay.
the
So
little one.
okay.
It's this one
Well,
there.
oh, cute. Wow. She's a boy or girl?
She's a girl. She's a
Okay.
diva.
Okay, another girl. So you got a lot of these sisters in the thing. Welcome to the show, Cara. It's good to see you again. We ran into each other at the LA Times Book Festival, and I'm happy to have you here. Now,
Thanks.
you have a very interesting story, and also the books you've written. But I knew a woman, she had a daughter, and she was an only child. And her mother wanted to take her to see Frozen, the movie, but she didn't want to. She would cry all the time. And finally, she admitted, Mom, it's because I don't have a sister. And the movie, I guess, is about sisters. And in your book, which is really fascinating, this one here, the sisters, voice lessons, you talk about going to the Academy Award, the Oscars, with your sister when she was nominated for the best song.
Mhm.
And it was like a very exciting moment in your life, and also hers. And you said that for some reason, you kind of wish you were closer to her in certain ways. And even though she's there for you all the time, you kind of want her to call you in different ways. Tell us a little bit about that, your relationship with her.
Well, I should say that now that I've moved to LA, that I have an
Uh,
empty nest. So a lot of time has passed since that since
okay.
that story, but I will revisit that. But we do have that time now. We get
Oh,
to
good.
nap together, and I'm so close that I can swing by with sugar. It's just unfortunate that she doesn't bake, so she doesn't need
Oh,
any.
okay.
But
So it's
yeah,
more of a distance
but
thing because you were far apart before. You couldn't see.
it's a lot of things. When you're sisters, you share, you have a common experience that you share, but then you're also, all those common experiences of childhood are from your own perspective, so it's they're only as common as your perception can be, right?
Yes.
So I think a lot of what I've learned about my relationship with my sister is that there's this dynamic for me that evolved in childhood that was about it being it being safe to be needed, not needed, but needy. So I was, let me try this again. The dynamic between us was that she's always there if I need her. She's my protector. She would do anything
Your
for me.
older sister.
Yes, because she's the big sister. But I didn't want to have to need her to to have a relationship with her, right? I wanted it to be on
Yes.
equal footing.
Right.
And so there was some sort of repatterning to do and stuff like that, which I think, in our family of origin stuff, there's always these roles that we start to migrate to unknowingly. And when we become more aware of those roles that we're sort of falling into in our adulthood, we can repattern and reshape things and have a different kind of relationship. And fortunately, we had a really special relationship when we were young, but it has evolved and changed with awareness, and now we have a really special one as adults.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. And the idea that as a younger sister, and then she's the older sister, and she has this amazing talent. And I think you guys are at the Academy Awards or Oscars, and then you were walking a little bit behind her, and I guess she didn't like that. And she says that you're actually her hero, and that she has more confidence in you than you have in yourself. Is that still the case, or is that something that's evolved as well?
Whew, that is sometimes the case. You know how when you shift into a new part of your life and context changes and
Yes.
stressors change,
Right.
sometimes old stuff creeps back up and you have to handle it in a whole new way.
Right.
So there are definitely times where that's no longer the case, but occasionally times when it is. I think that metaphor in that scene that I'm talking about.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with like when we're together, um, she wants me to feel like I'm the I'm not being compared to her. She wants me to feel as special and as great as she believes that I am.
Yes.
And I want her to feel as special and great as I believe she is, But in that context where, for example, we're at the Oscars or if we're at the Tonys and she's Idina Menzel, I am Idina Menzel's sister, right? And I am okay with that, but she wants me to feel special when I'm with her,
I
not
see.
less special.
Yeah. So there's a great deal of empathy, putting yourself in each other's shoes,
Mhm.
feeling each other's joy and also maybe disappointments and laughter.
Mhm.
And the other thing is,
We literally fit in each other's shoes, which I'm thrilled about
oh,
because
oh, really? Oh,
she
same
has
size?
some really special shoes.
Oh, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay. You can exchange that. Okay. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting is Frozen grossed over $1 billion. They said it's maybe the highest grossing animated film at the time. It's a huge deal. And of course, she sang the song of Elsa. And
Mhm.
apparently, there are a lot of parallels between you guys because Elsa, I guess, is the older sister in the movie. And then Anna is the younger sister. And Elsa's got this great talent, but she's afraid of it. I mean, was it water? She freezes people or something like that. And then
She can freeze anything. Yeah.
and she can hurt people, I guess. And then eventually she accepts her abilities. And then because of love, her sister shows love to her. She
Mhm.
reciprocates. Is there anything that I know you wrote those children's books, which we'll talk about, but it seems like there's a lot of parallels here in terms of the older, younger sister and all this kind of stuff.
I think there are a lot of parallels, and a lot of my writing projects obviously have been with my sister, so we've sort of addressed themes in sisterhood. I do more. I write about more than sisterhood. In fact, between us, we have four boys.
Oh,
So there's a lot of boy energy too. But I think uh, when I think about Elsa and Anna, and I think about our books in Loud Mouse and Proud Mouse, we're Dee, which is what I call her for Edina, and Cara Lee, which is Lee is my middle name, so I'm little Cara Lee, and
mhm.
we're mice, and we do have all these sister dynamics um, that play out. And in Loud Mouse, there's once again this sort of power that Dee has to harness and figure out how she wants to use it. And similar to other roles that she's played, whether that's Elsa, who has to figure out how to harness this really special power that she has to use for good, or Elphaba on Broadway when she's in Wicked and she's the Wicked Witch who has to figure out how to harness her power. Um, there are all these parallels in those roles where a woman has a power and she has to it makes her vulnerable.
Mm.
So a lot of what we wanted to explore in Loud Mouse was, look, when you have something, whether it's a talent or whether it's just your being, if you shine brightly, that's something that you should do. That's something that the world needs you to do. But we also acknowledge that that makes you vulnerable when you put yourself on a stage like that
Yes.
people might criticize you or you might do something embarrassing or people, you'll have to figure out how much space to take up in the world and how much to
Yes.
leave for other people. These are really complicated questions and themes, but we present them in a children's book because I think understanding that vulnerability comes along with strength is really important, and it's been really important for us and in our relationship, and
Definitely.
that's why we explore it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the psychological aspects of these things you're writing, the book and also the children's books. Because even those for children, I think adults can pick up some powerful ideas. And
We hope because those ideas. That's what's so great about children's books is those ideas
yes,
always come back around, right?
yes,
And we kind of
there's a
revisit
great
them.
spiritual author named Vernon Howard. I don't know if you heard about him. He used to write children's books, then he wrote spiritual metaphysical books.
Mhm.
And it's not interesting. I mean, it's simple writing, but sometimes it cuts to the core and it gives people these very deep concepts in an understandable way. Now
Yeah.
going back to sisters, though, the research shows that having a sister can actually make you more loving, less anxious, sense of comfort. So there's a lot of advantages psychologically, and of course, there is the other side supposedly of sibling rivalry.
Mhm.
Well, they say that's kind of overstated. Typically, only if one parent favors another one and there's scarce resources does that maybe come up. But in your case, I believe you said that you're proud of her successes. Did you have any envy, jealousy, sibling rivalry with her, or was she toward you in some ways? Or not?
You know, I don't want to paint like too pretty a picture because relationships are complicated.
Sure.
I think there is and was envy there because she has this talent that's just immense and really striking and emotional. But I, I have we're connected in such a way that
Mm.
our experiences are connected. So, for example, when recently we've been reading this book together, and there's a refrain in it where the little mouse sings, and
Mm.
so every time my sister sings this refrain, I have this moment where it's like, oh my gosh, it never gets old. Her
Ah,
voice is so special and so emotional. I hear her sing this silly thing about, with my tail in my hand and my whiskers out proud. I sing it big, I sing a lot. But her voice is still so moving. I don't know if
ah,
it's the timbre of it or what. It strikes me every time. And I have asked myself the question, like, would it feel more rewarding to be the person who has that talent or to be the sister who gets to witness it and
ah,
feel the pride?
mm,
Um, and I've come to an understanding with myself that I wouldn't want to give up being the sister.
mm,
You can't. There's no way to describe when she's Alphaba on stage,
mm.
spinning around with her arms spread out, and all this stuff is happening. There's no way to describe what it feels like to be her sister, and I wouldn't want to trade that.
Right. And then those mouse books, I think I asked you this before. Why do kids love mice? Because when you get older, people hate mice or they're scared of them. So what is it? I think it's they're cuddly when they're little or something, or what is it about?
Yeah, it's so funny. I just saw an Instagram video where a dog comes in from outside, and the mom's like, "What's in your mouth?" And he drops this mouse out of his mouth, and everybody's screaming. It's just so
Okay, for a dog, it's cool, right? It's like a little play toy or something, right? It's no big.
yes, it's like, oh my gosh, you just brought a mouse in my house. Um, you know, if they're in the cage with all the straw and whatever you call
Yeah,
that stuff, they're
they're pets.
adorable.
Yes, right.
Um, when they're wild in your house and you don't know if they're reproducing, that's a little more nerve wracking. Um, but in children's literature, they're everywhere.
Right. Yeah, the three blind mice was that the one or something like
Three
that?
blind mice with there's so there's uh let me think. There's Stuart Little, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
There's Templeton, who's a rat in Charlotte's Web. There's Kevin Henke's books,
Right.
and he
Right.
has like Chrysanthemum and all these adorable mice characters. Despero is
Yes.
a mouse,
Yeah, I guess that
and
can be cute in a certain kind of way, right? Uh,
yeah. So we love them. I think in our instance, we chose to go with mice because we look so cute as mice. No, that's not why, but we do. But it also has to do with the size. Mice, there's expectations that we have of mice who are small and who are quiet.
Right. Exactly.
And we love the idea that if in the story this being is going to grow bigger as she feels bigger
Yes.
emotionally,
Right.
um, and that she has this loud voice, it just works well that she is actually a mouse, someone who's
Yeah.
supposed to be quiet and supposed to be small.
Yes, that makes sense. So the loud mouse. Now, one of the things I think we were talking earlier is that not everyone has to have a thing. And you talk about little kids and say, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And you think that may be a little too much pressure, or it may be difficult in that sense. Uh, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring that up because that's something that I gave a lot more thought to as we were working on Proud Mouse, the second book that's coming out that focuses more on Cara Lee, the little
Yes.
sister, who is very proud of her big sister, but it turns out the pride goes both ways, right? So ask me that question one more time because I really want to address it.
Okay. The idea that not everyone has to have a thing.
Ah,
Little kids are asked that when they, what do you want to do when you grow up? Could that put
yeah.
pressure on them? I mean, you think that may not be the exact thing to say.
Yeah. So for me, when people talk about did I envy my sister, one of the things I envied was just that she had a thing.
Hmm.
Like it was so clear what she
Very
was going through
specific
when
since an
she
early
grew
age too.
up.
Yeah.
And when I was young, everybody was trying to figure out what's my thing. Do you sing? Do you sing?
Right, right,
And so what I thought I was lacking was this clarity about who I was supposed to become. Meanwhile, I was 5. Um, so I feel like we put a lot of pressure on children to figure that out. I now have an empty nest, so I have boys who are in college or graduated from college, so they
congratulations.
have to think about what's their major going to be,
Sure,
and how is that going to translate when they graduate? And the
right.
focus is always on this outcome
Hmm,
that we know is what's the word, transmutable. We know it changes,
right.
especially in this day and age where people can graduate from college and the things they need to do out in the real world didn't even exist 4 years prior when they went to college. So
Right, exactly. It seems like
I
things are starting earlier, even like elementary school kids are thinking about the college or the SATs, SAT scores or something.
yes,
Yeah, and they're getting
yes,
trained,
so
so it's getting a
so
little
much.
more
it,
pressurized. Yeah.
it's,
But
there's
what
so much pressure. So the thing that I wanted to say about that is I think the impression that I want to leave on children is that curiosity
mm,
is the most important thing to
right.
cultivate, and
Ah,
that you can pursue many things. Um, and you should, because you could be 48 and all of a sudden realize that you're going to be a children's book author, and in
there you go.
addition to a teacher, in
Okay.
addition
That's
to
not you,
a
right? You're not 48. You look a lot.
I am
Oh,
48.
you look great. Are you serious?
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a filter on my Zoom.
Well, okay. Oh, by the way, you know the phrase, "Curiosity killed the cat, but
Yes.
satisfaction brought it back." You remember
Ah,
that second part? That's part 2 of it.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah, it's kinda cool. Now, but also I think the idea, and I think you said this before, is that, talents are a scale, a gradation. Now you can sing, maybe not like your sister, but you have your own voice, and you're a teacher, writer, you have, different talents. And there's,
Mhm,
like, multiple intelligences we know in psychology. In Spanish, we call it, don. The word comes from don divino, gift from God. Some
mhm,
people are good at writing, some people are good, caretakers, some people
mhm.
are good with their hands. So people have different talents and different levels of it. So I think that what you're saying is to kind of find your own inner nature, your own talent,
Mhm.
and to develop it, right, and express it for the good of humanity.
Yeah, I think there is a choice at some point that you make about where you put your time and energy, right? So for me, I was so terrified of trying to write a full book. And my husband just used to say to me, "Would you stop wondering if you have the talent to do it and just put in the time? If you would just put in the time,
Yes.
you'll be fine." And so that was so helpful to me, because that whole 10,000 hours of practice at
Oh,
something,
yes.
you'll get.
Mhm.
So I just made sure I showed up every day to do what I love to do. And I had the outcome I wanted. And I actually, the best thing about voice lessons, that book, is that when I look at it even today, I absolutely love it. So that's a huge accomplishment for me.
Yes. Yeah. This is a great book. I really enjoyed it, and very insightful. And I think you said that you were waiting for her invitation to the Oscars, and at some point she said, "Yeah." And you said, "F yes, let's do it."
That's,
And you weren't sure if were you not sure she would invite you because I guess as her date or something you call it, or her
I
second.
don't remember. You know what? I don't remember that. I do know. I do know that there was a lot going on at that point in her life
Right.
with her long-term partner and husband. So I think
Uh-huh.
part of it was
Hmm.
related to that.
Right. You
But
told me they broke. Did they divorce or something
they
eventually?
divorced.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So it didn't work out.
yeah.
But she's happily remarried now, or no?
She's happily remarried now, to a therapist,
Oh,
actually.
perfect. Okay.
Yes, and my nephew has two great father figures,
Uh-huh.
and it's great. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, in terms of loudmouth, I was looking at it and it says Dee found her loud voice
Mhm.
because kids brought like some kid brought a marker or a drum and she brought a song and she started singing the song and then apparently she started getting bigger physically, like actually bigger. But she
Right.
started knocking the kids around. I guess the little kindergartners were knocked down by her big body. And then
Uh-huh.
she said, "I have to stop singing because I'm too big. I'm too loud." And then
Right.
you, I think, or the Cara character says, "You've always been big and loud. Do you think that a star can choose not to shine?"
Right.
And that somehow triggered something. And then she said, "I sang with full heart and whiskers out proud." So it
Yeah.
seems like you, the little sister, saved her in some ways in the book.
Yeah. It was and that's twofold. There's one, she always says that that I was sort of the wiser of the two, even though I was the younger sister. And we joke
In
about
real life or in the book? I mean,
both. So that's why it's in the book that way. But it was also important in the book that the young people figure, come up with the resolutions and the solutions and the wisdom, and it's not always the teachers or the moms and dads. So that's why it was twofold. We wanted to make sure that the kids kind of came to understanding on their own, and we
yes.
also wanted to make sure that we represented this dynamic between us, which is um, somehow I managed to get, married before her and have
Hmm.
kids before her, and also get divorced before her. I like to joke,
Oh, okay.
but so she puts me on a pedestal
Okay.
somehow
So what
for
does she admire about you? That you are a family woman or you teach? What is it when she thinks about you?
um she thinks I'm smart and wise, which is lovely.
Hmm.
So I love that. She thinks I'm a good mom. For me, that's what I always wanted to be. I
Right.
always wanted to be a mom, and I thought that wasn't
Yes.
okay because everybody was like, "You got to be like a, big, strong, independent woman." And it was the '80s and '90s, and I was like, I really just want to like have babies and be a mom and
Right.
make lunches.
Sure.
So I always sort of tended more towards the domestic, and the
Which is this is a
introspection.
talent by itself. Like I said, it's a gift. The caretaker. It's a very
Mhm,
strong gift, but it may not be as valued in some ways by some in society,
mhm.
but it is definitely very powerful.
It is, and now I get to be like, I was, and it's very much a teacher gift too, right? To be
Oh,
the
yes.
caretaker and the
Right.
nurturer,
Right.
and so it's fun because I get to be that for my nephew now that I'm living in LA. He's 13, and he calls me to help him with his pre-algebra homework,
Mhm.
and I end up. You talk about satisfaction, curiosity, but
Oh,
also satisfaction.
yes.
I get so much satisfaction from getting the algebra questions right. It's almost
Oh.
inappropriate because I should be happy that my nephew's getting them right, but I'm more like,
Oh,
yeah, I remembered,
that's great. Oh.
remembered how to do it.
Uh,
Um,
so
so
you're a strong empath, they call you. The empath kind of really can feel very strongly the person's, joy or success.
yes,
You
and
identify with other people.
to the extent that I have to that I really have to work on boundaries,
Mm,
and the language that I use to establish boundaries. Because like that was the most difficult part of being a classroom teacher. For example, 30 kids in one classroom, and if you really are sensitive to what they all need and what they're all
sure.
feeling,
Right.
means you could just imagine every time I had to pick on a kid
Ah,
who had his hand raised, I
right.
was sensitive to all the other kids that were like, I wanted her to hear what I had to say. Like
Yes, right.
um, it's it's an emotional. It's a lot to carry emotionally.
Yeah, the feelers, personality, they have that deep, sensitivity. And sometimes they
Mhm,
can feel hurt or they feel, if there's conflict, it's really difficult for them
mhm,
because they're not used to that. Harmony is important. So that's
mhm.
an interesting, style. Now, the second book, apparently, this is about you, I think. Could it be? A Proud
Right,
Mouse.
the proud mouse. So we really wanted to, not everybody can relate to the loud mouse.
Hmm.
So we wanted to make sure that the other side of the scenario was depicted too, which is this is little mouse who just looks up to her big sister. And she goes to school for the first time. Well, she also has this larger than life sister who's
Hmm.
physically actually gets larger than life sometimes when she sings. So she goes to school for the first time, so excited to be the student because she's been a student of the world already. She's got her journal and her magnifying glass, and she
Right.
just loves everything and is curious. But when she gets there, all the teachers start asking her if she's like her sister, and she feels compared to her sister for the first time. And she feels that sense of a shadow
Mhm.
for the first time from her sister, and she gets really confused.
Right.
And it's suggested to her that sometimes it's easier to get a sense of who you are when you stand alone instead of next to somebody.
Yes.
And so maybe she needs to. So she says she gets that idea, and she goes to run out of the house, and her everyone says, "Where are you going?" And she, puts her ponytail in and tugs it nice and tight. She says, "I'm going to stand alone. I can see myself more clearly." And
Oh.
she goes out into nature, which is a
Mm.
huge strength for me, spending time in nature.
Yes.
and she gets a better sense of who she is outside of her sister, and that's
Interesting. Wow. Stepping out into the nature, I guess the naturalness of who you are, your authenticity, you could say,
yeah,
part of
yeah.
that.
There's just so many beautiful metaphors out in nature that sort of reaffirm, that are life affirming and diversity affirming.
Mhm.
For example, the one that's really big in Proud Mouse is the aspen grove. For me, I love, not only do I love the aspens in fall, being from Colorado or having spent so much time in Colorado, but I know that they look like they're individual trees above the ground, but underneath their all their roots are connected, so they're actually one organism.
Mm.
So I love the metaphor of, look, we do all stand alone. There's individuality that's important, but there's also this very much united
Yes.
support system that we all rely on too.
Mm.
So,
Interesting.
that's not something I expect the 4-year-olds reading the book to walk away with, but I think it's important imagery to put out
Yeah,
there.
it's a very powerful concept. Yeah, for adults, the unity of the consciousness and
Mhm.
humanity, you would say.
Yes.
Beautiful. The
Yeah.
other thing, the theme I'm seeing here is you said you're proud to be a student, and you also
Mhm.
mentioned curiosity.
Yep.
So as opposed to having a fixed definition of what you have to do or be, that's a very beautiful thing to encourage, I think, in children and people in general, is that sense of curiosity.
Yeah, and just and to embrace, like, changeability, like, that,
Yes,
yes, it's important to set goals and to have objectives and to
right.
become disciplined about something, but it's also important to, like, embrace change when the path turns. So that, yeah, that is a message that it was important to.
That's nice.
And
We were talking, I think, off camera a little bit about personality types. I wrote a book, Love Types, on Myers Briggs and relationships and all that.
right.
And then I think we were trying to determine your type. And if I recall, I believe you said your internal energy, if I remember correctly, the energy from your own thoughts more.
Mhm.
Now, some actually performers, and I'm a speaker myself, but I'm internal, so I can do it, but then I get tired. I need to recharge and take a hot tub and recharge your batteries. Are you like that in terms of energy?
I am like that. It took me a long time to figure that out
Right.
because I'm not shy and I do thrive
Yes.
when I'm in front of people.
Right.
Um, but I also tend toward depression and anxiety and things like that. And I need to kind of um, I need my own little cave, my own nap, my own,
Sure. Of course.
um, to recoup.
Mhm. So the
And
Academy Awards, what year was that? 2014, was it?
15,
14,
maybe
15? 14, 15?
14. I don't know. I don't
Well, from the
remember.
book, I think it said 14. But so you're at the red carpet. I mean, were you overwhelmed by all that? Were you cool with
Oh
all the
my
things
gosh.
going on?
Yes, well, it was mixed feelings because on the one hand, you often you watch this from the TV at home and you're
Right.
like, I wonder what I would look like if I had 6 hours of people doing my hair and makeup
Right.
and I
You
had
got
some
jewels
crazy
and gowns and all that stuff. Right.
dress on. Yes, and millions of dollars worth of diamonds and
Wow.
oh my
Good for
gosh.
you.
So I loved it, but also, like I had to rehearse standing in my shoes
Oh,
because the heels were so high and I'd been
oh,
in Birkenstocks from Colorado for God
oh.
knows how long.
Mm.
So I remember like putting on the shoes the day before and practicing in the room. And actually, I had to switch to a different pair of shoes because the
Oh.
original pair that I had, I needed a wall next to me to,
Oh,
to
okay.
make to stay near because I kept losing my balance and
I can see
falling.
that.
So
Yeah.
and then my son, I remember getting a text while I was on the red carpet from my son who said he spotted me in the background on the red carpet
Mm.
from home and I had just like picked a wedgie on TV and he couldn't believe that I did that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
Every little thing comes out, I guess.
I'm self-conscious enough. And I didn't pick a wedgie. My dress was stuck under my heel.
Oh, okay. I see.
But but
Okay.
yes, I loved it. And I
Right.
also was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. This is
Exactly.
a
Yeah,
lot.
some people do that. Okay, so I'm gonna put you as internal energy. Now, I think we talked about imaginative versus practical, the creative, imaginative person versus the concrete, sensory person. Which
Mhm.
would you say you're more of in that sense?
I think I'm more imaginative.
Okay. You're creative, like, in your intuition kinda stuff and mindset?
Yep. Yep. I don't know if this is the same thing, but definitely more heart than head.
Okay, that's another dimension. That's feeler versus thinker.
Yeah.
Well, that
Okay.
I know you are for sure. You're definitely a feeler.
Okay.
But you also seem someone sensory. Do you like beautiful colors and
Mhm.
smells and sounds and all that? Are you into the aesthetics of things?
Yeah,
sensuality.
and that's part of why nature is so resourcing for me
Mhm.
is the beauty. It's kind of there's a spiritual piece to
Right.
that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the other one is like, are you structured or spontaneous? So let's say you're invited tomorrow. Let's go to Hawaii, but you got something else going on tomorrow. What would you do? Would you take
This
off or
is
would you plan?
the this is a tricky one for me. I don't. You'd have to interpret this,
Okay.
but I'm definitely spontaneous. So if you ask me about something tomorrow, I'm
Mhm.
good. But if you want me to plan ahead and
Ah,
commit to something,
right.
I get anxiety about that because I don't want to commit and then
Right.
not be able to
Right.
stick
But
to
would you
it.
take off spur of the moment, like tomorrow, even if you
Mhm.
had something kind of planned, but you like this, you would do that?
I would. I'd
Okay.
be thrilled to do that.
Okay. So you're a little bit messy, disorganized, and late, would you say?
Ah!
Yes.
That was a leap. I didn't know that was coming.
Yes.
Um, Messy, disorganized. I would say 70-30. I'd say I'm 70% that way. But
Okay.
like yesterday, it was a half an hour early to,
Okay. Yes.
yeah.
All right.
So,
So I mean, that's part of the being spontaneous. Like I'm the same way. So we like to be a little messy, but we know kind of where things are. And then
mhm.
we like to have different things going on. So we might be a little bit late, but it's like enjoying life, kind of thing. So it's
Yeah, a little bit of winging
but
it. Also, just stuffing tons of stuff in there so you end up late because you just think you have time to do one more thing.
exactly, yeah. So you could be I think Cara, two possibilities. We may have talked about it. So the idealistic philosopher is INFP, which is introvert, intuitive, feeling, perceiving.
Mhm.
And I think we mentioned that before. And the other one is if you're more sensory oriented, more kind of into aesthetics, you could be the ISFP, which is the gentle artist. They
Mm.
love animals, nature, and children, arts, perhaps. They're very devoted and loving, and they will do anything for love. They might move cross country for the love partner.
Mhm.
They can be a little idealistic and maybe naive at times and fall into the wrong relationships, but they're very devoted. Um, so, anyways, does any of those two sound like you? The first one is more spiritual, psychological type. The
What was the it was something philosopher?
idealistic philosopher, idealistic
Idealistic philosopher.
Gandhi, Mother Teresa type. They have a mission in life, a purpose, very spiritual. And the other one is more aesthetics, sensual, in terms of the beautiful things in life.
I I'd love to say that I'm more like Gandhi and Mother Teresa, but I think I'm I think I'm more the gentle artist because
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Those are close though.
You're pretty close. You
They
could be
both are
borderline perhaps on that one dimension, the imagine practical.
they both honored parts of me, I think, for sure. But if I had to choose, I'd go with the ISFP.
Okay, which is a gentle artist personality, like nature loving, kind of
Mhm.
very gentle, devoted kind of person.
Mhm.
Actually, you're only about 2% of the population, by the way. So you're pretty rare.
Really? Well, that
Yeah.
explains a lot.
So that uniqueness. Now I'm curious about your sister. Do you think is she similar to you in these dimensions or different?
We we definitely, if we were a Venn diagram, there's definitely a lot of overlap.
Mhm.
For example, I think that she definitely loves performing and gets a ton out of that, but she also resources
Internally?
internally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she a
Um,
feeler or a thinker, do you think?
I think she's a feeler.
Okay. She's emotional, okay.
Hmm.
And then the other one is I guess probably she might be is he sensory oriented, like kind of like beautiful things, aesthetics, and that kind of thing? Or is she like really
Um,
creative, like in her head all the time? In her nothing.
that's a tricky dimension for her. If that was a gradient, I mean, I feel like it'd be somewhere in the middle between those two.
Yeah, kind of like you, baby. And
Mhm.
spontaneous or structured? Because you say you're spontaneous a little bit.
She's spontaneous too.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'd love to have her on the show. Maybe both of you guys can come on. We can do a little love types analysis for you guys.
That would be fun.
And then figure out because sometimes genetically you're similar, but there could be a few other factors that make it different
Yeah.
environmentally.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, because your personality definitely is very unique, very special. Maybe you can put that in another book. The personalities styles of the people. Of,
I would love that. That's a
yeah,
great idea.
the,
I
the
appreciate.
gifts.
I'm just gonna say, if we could just keep this going, and you could give me more compliments, I'm happy to sit
Oh, is that
here.
okay? Oh, okay, no problem.
I
Well,
was
I
gonna
think
say,
yes.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that. I mean, I'm similar to your type, but sometimes we don't appreciate ourselves until later in life. These kind of unique types. Because it's so non-traditional. It's not really the typical personality in society.
What's the typical personality?
We call it security seekers. Like traditionalist types, administrators, stuff like that. That are organized, structured, practical. Some are logical and some are emotional. That's a whole different style. Yeah, they keep the
I
study. Yeah,
That's where if I get jealous, that's the stuff. That's the stuff I get jealous of. Like people who are just really disciplined and
yeah. They
organized.
got to go in like schedules and this and that.
Mhm. I
Everything going.
had to, as a classroom teacher, I did develop that because you kind of have to, have your systems
Right.
and your consistency. But that was work.
Right. Yeah. For spontaneous people, it's kind of counter natured in some ways to the business world or the structured world. But
Mhm.
often they're a good artistry. They're artists, writers, stuff like that.
Well,
Where
I
they can.
remember I remember as a classroom teacher that sometimes people thought I didn't have control over my classroom because they would walk by my classroom
Mhm.
and it looked like everybody was having a great old
Yeah.
time.
Exactly. Funny.
And that's because we were having a great old time
Yes.
because there were moments where I had to decide, do I want to derail the lesson because something funny could happen here? And I just think that laughter is more valuable than the
Right.
lesson. And I often would make that choice.
Right.
It's harder to manage a classroom when you're willing to do things like that because then you have to rein everybody back in more
Right. Of
often.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, it was always worth it.
Yes.
So I think sometimes the perception was, oh, she needs more structure. But for me, it was a deliberate decision to embrace playfulness,
I like that.
and
Yes.
again, the curiosity piece.
Yeah.
And
Because it's not because laughter is a lesson. Perhaps
yes,
laughter is really what you want to teach them. Like you said, playfulness and spontaneity.
yes.
Even
And
as
that's
adult, yeah, you can do that as for adults too. Adults need that more these days, I think, as well.
it's so important. I mean, I just think about how addicted my husband and I are to like Instagram watching these puppies and these babies. Like
Oh,
we
yes.
just
Oh, yeah?
the goats. Oh my gosh, just
Oh.
laughter is so
Have you
infectious.
seen Tucker, the Golden Retriever series? Tucker?
I have
Yeah, is that pretty cool? I
too.
have a little golden too, so that's good.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying
It's
to
very
me.
funny. The lady behind the scenes is funny, yeah. That does it.
Yeah, yes. Well, that's a big part of it, I guess. I did want to say that I've been working on a blog that I do now called The Empty
Oh,
Next.
yeah, I think, yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
And what's important to me about it is that, I am a sister, so
Right,
there are times where I'm exploring that theme, but it looks at so many things. I'm someone who just raised three boys,
right.
and is looking at sort of what's next. I was pregnant with my first child when I was 23. So I definitely come from this maternal perspective, but I'm looking at the rest of my life, and I'm doing couples therapy, and I started taking ukulele
There you
lessons,
go, okay.
and I still hike every day, and my
Right.
dogs are aging and I'm aging, and so there's just so much good stuff to write about, and that's where I'm doing it. That's where I'm doing my most
Yeah.
current writing.
That kinda brings me to almost the theme of the song, "Let It Go,"
Mhm.
and I was reading that, and it's got some cool lyrics. It says, "Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know," but then it says,
Mhm.
let it go. Can't hold back anymore. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No
Mhm.
right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. I
Mhm.
thought maybe that's what you're talking about. The empty next. It could be a lot of other people that need that message.
Yeah, yeah. No
Let it
right and
go.
no wrong.
Mhm.
No rules for me. I'm free. I that's
What are you letting go? You think in this stage of life?
oof. Well, I think I'm just creating some space for me.
Mhm.
This whole ISFP thing that we were talking
Yes,
about,
mental
this
artist. Yes.
nurturer, caretaker.
Right.
I am all those things, but I also want a little bit. Am I allowed to say I want to be a little bit of a badass too? Like
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to just sort of like grr, like be this bigger, louder,
Okay. I had this
person.
guy on my show. Have you heard of Cobra Kai, the TV series?
Yes,
This
yes.
guy, Mike Barnes. I don't know if you know. He's one of the characters. He's got a whole series on badass, but psychologically
Okay.
in a good way.
Mhm. My nephew loves Cobra Kai. I watched the
Yeah,
first 2 seasons. I think we're at, like,
yeah.
much more than that now, but
Kind of like martial. I mean, like expressing your inner power, right? I guess they could call it.
yeah, and for me, this dynamic when I there's so much comfort and familiarity in being this kind, soft person,
Yes,
that to feel like you can also have this other element to who you are without
yes,
giving that up.
Right.
especially as a woman, to feel
Mhm.
like you can be both a badass and this
Right.
kind
Maybe you got to take some
caretaker.
karate from the Cobra Kai people or something.
Maybe I should do that instead. In addition to my ukulele, I'll take up.
Yeah, soft but strong.
Yes,
Like that.
it's true. That's an important metaphor
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Because Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, you may have heard of him. The archetypes and all that, and also the personality types. He talked about
Mhm.
individuation. As you get older, you start to blend the different parts of you and into a whole, which is very nice. If you're introverted early, maybe you might become an extrovert as you get older, or vice versa. So you find
That's
kind of a
fascinating.
yeah, you find a very kind of holistic nature, and you hit your middle years. So that could be
Ah, I appreciate you saying that. That's really helpful.
definitely. Well,
I think
well,
that's very true.
yes, yeah, because you say ukulele and also dogs and other things you're working on, right? And self care and things like that.
Yes,
You're
yes. I
working
still, it turns out that even when your kids leave the nest, they still need a lot. They're just harder to manage because they're farther away and you can't.
Yes.
um, but but yes, there's just more space for what's next.
Exactly.
What could I be?
Right.
What am I that I haven't
I
explored
like
yet?
that. Yeah, it's
You know?
very exciting. Well, kind of love to have you back on again. This has been wonderful to see you again. And
So nice to be here. I really appreciate it, and it's so much. It's nice to not be so hot.
yeah, it was hot the other day. I think it was very relaxed. Now, where can people hear more about you? Do you have a website or anything else, or products?
Yes, I have. I mean, the home base is my name, which, by the way, my last name has a T in it. My sister's last name does not.
Oh, okay.
So I'm CaraMentzel.com,
Hmm.
and it's Mentzel.
Yes.
Believe it or not, ironically, my sister took the T out to help people pronounce her name
Oh,
properly,
okay.
and then she became infamous for
John,
somebody
Tra-
mispronouncing
John,
her name.
John
Anyway,
Travolta mispronounced it. I saw on the Academy
yes,
Awards.
yes.
But she
So
got him back the next year, I think, by
yes,
mispronouncing his name.
yes. So I chose to leave the T in my name, but now
Okay.
it looks like a typo on our children's books when the names are next to each other.
Okay.
So
So Cara, Mentzel.com is your.
yes, and I've got an Instagram and all those things. But the
Hmm.
empty next is on Substack,
Okay.
um, and uh, and it's free to subscribe. And I
Is it
try.
coming out, or is it out yet?
It's out. It's out. Yep.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
bunch of stuff you can choose from. The most recent one that I put out was from my archive, and it's he got a vasectomy. I got a dog, and
Okay.
I got this dog.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's this creature there? Okay. You got a
So
little.
this is yeah, it goes back to like when you think, oh my gosh, I could have a fourth grader right now, but I don't. Instead, I chose to have this dog.
Puppy dog. Well, it's love without expectations. That's the powerfulness of dogs. But,
Yes,
you know,
yes,
either way,
it is. Except
exactly.
she has some expectations. She's
Well, yeah, cuddlies. And then your book is coming out. Is it September? The new one.
yeah. So Proud Mouse is the second children's book, and it's available for pre-sale now, which apparently is very important because it helps us make the bestseller list.
Sure.
So if you're willing to buy it in advance and have it delivered
Oh,
opening week, the opening week is September 12th.
right.
Um, and it's so good. It's about like sibling differentiation,
Hmm.
and the refrain in that one is, "I'm just going to be me. Who else would I be?" Um,
Very
so
powerful. Yeah.
there's more singing in it too,
I
and
see. That's excellent. So for adults and for kids, these are great books. I recommend them. And Kara's always been a pleasure to see you. And I want to have you on again when the book comes out, if you like.
thank you so
We can
much.
talk
I
more
will
about
be
it.
in touch and let you know. Yeah.
So be authentic, be yourself, be loving, and be curious. I think those are the lessons for today. This is
Yes.
Dr. Alex Avi of Love University. We've enjoyed it today with Cara. Until next time, put away your notebooks, your iPads, your phones. Class is now dismissed. So that was a great interview live at the Los Angeles Book Festival at USC. We had an amazing time, and this is a great opportunity to interview these wonderful authors and people that have a message that's going to help others. So, Love University students, if you want to be on the show in the future, or if you have a show idea and want to comment on today's show, you can reach us at 310-226-8090. You can write to us at loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. You can visit us at loveuniversity.love. You can also download the podcast on Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Love University Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Love Letter U Podcast. And you can also go to our YouTube channel, Love University. So until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila. It's time to put away your notebooks, your iPads, your phones. And class is now dismissed. Love yourself, others, and a higher nature. Until next time.